So, Scott, I'm sure that you are, part of the right. You've understood that Jack Dorsey and Twitter and Zuckerberg and Facebook and Instagram, they're all against you. And to an extent, they are. They are overcritical of people on the right. They do
They're
ban
against
people.
America. Shut up.
They do ban people they shouldn't with thoughts that is quite against freedom of speech, and that's all true. But Mike Lindell has had enough of it. He's taken his money from his My Pillow enterprise and from his Trump grifting, and he is opening his own social media program, and I'm very excited about it. Um, there's only four rules though, because they asked Mike Lindell, so this is going to be completely open. This is all the freedom of the First Amendment, and he said, yeah, oh yeah, it's about the First Amendment, blah blah blah. Free speech, and they said, okay, so like, will there just be able to be like running pornography on there, like will it be smut films, what? And he said, oh no 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 no, okay, so I'll break down Mike Lindell's rules for his new social media program. Now, first off, and by the way, Scott, listen to these and tell me if you notice a scent of, I don't know, hypocrisy amongst it, especially as somebody who is pioneering this new social media in the vein of freedom of speech. But it is based on Judeo Christian ideology. Number one, you can't say the C word. No C word on his social media. By the way, love that word. I don't even find that a hate word. I use it all the time. Watch a ton of like British comedy.
Yeah, I guess the Irish aren't going to be on this platform.
Yes, yes, them too. Yeah, I mean, very, very big with that. Okay. You can't say the F word. You can't say the F word. Number two,
Ah, fuck me.
right? Uh, number three, you can't say the Lord's name in vain.
Well, that's going to be an interesting algorithm.
And number four, you can't say the N word.
Nigeria?
Right.
Well, there
It
goes
does. That's
geography.
that's a country we don't believe in. So, I mean, and he said, like, aside from oh, and by the way, with the Judeo-Christian ideology, that obviously means no pornography, things of that nature, no violence, blah blah blah. So I don't know. I'm just curious as somebody who does value freedom of speech, and this being the right wing's social media, celebration of the freedom of speech, and the the washing the shackles away of Jack Dorsey and Twitter. What are your thoughts on this new
Uh,
America First
it,
social
it's it
media?
it sounds like just another Facebook then, because if you're going to lay down algorithms and rules like that, there's a lot of people say you should be able to burn the flag. Then you go up to somebody who's served and you say, you think you should be able to burn the flag? And they go, I may not like it, but that's what I fought for. It's your freedom. You can respect it or you can burn it. You don't usually see. It's usually the people who didn't serve and put their life on the line for our Constitution, that they're the ones who say, hey, you just put them in jail. I've never wanted to burn the flag, um, but damn sure I think people should be able to do that. And so that's as basic as it gets. Everything else falls into the same category, whether it be naked pictures. One thing, if they are illegal, meaning if it is, something around child pornography or stuff
You
like
mean
that,
like if
of
Matt
course.
Gaetz were to get into the platform?
It's the right. If it becomes a Matt Gaetz tender, there are those rules set in place by the federal government which are going to apply. Period. But other than that, me and Larry Flint are like this. So he may have just passed, but I'm in full agreement with his full view. If you catch my drift, and I don't have a moral problem with that. Sure, it can make people weird, but just the really lonely ones. Those are all parts of our expression. They've been parts of our expression for thousands of years. They're drawn on the sides of every Roman bathroom stall. And when it comes to those words, yeah, those were also used thousands of years ago. You're never going to get people to, stop saying those words. You're never going to get people, including people of the own race, to say, not use the N word. It's just going to happen. So if you're going to shut all of that down, including the blasphemy laws, really? I know some places that have blasphemy laws, and boy, oh boy, I hope you like being stoned to death. So yeah, if we can't be the antithesis of those things that are legal in the United States, albeit the other things we talked about, then what freedom really is there? I mean,
So
it's just a joke.
are you saying you are not going to be signing up for this program? You're not
I
going.
will not be signing up because my username would probably be Larry Flint.
No, and look, I'm with you on that too. I mean, I don't know how many e-girls that I've been able to see because of OnlyFans, and I'm like, hell yeah, I would have been just stuck trying to find, you know, doing the Google images and finding a bikini shot.
I'm not even
Only
curious of those e-girls. I think
OnlyFans has it right there. Boom, I'm done. I can blast one out, grab a sandwich, and be back playing, Outriders in 10 minutes. This is life.
I know where a mole is.
Yeah, the thing I think about it, like, too, that I think is funny is there was some very truthful conservatives, and they were talking about why Parler failed. And dude, nothing perfectly exemplifies the social media life better than this. And they said, well, the problem with Parler is there was no liberals to bash on. And I think that's true. Like, if we had a left wing social media or a right wing social media where that's all that's involved, we wouldn't like going there because we
Yeah,
like we like the fight, we like the
we
troll.
like the outrage. It's the opposite of Twitter. It's where we go to look at the other side and either scoff or disgusted, and then people go to Twitter to join the outrage mob with their own friends.
Yeah, and I know you do it. I do it. Sometimes you just troll people, and at the end of it, you're like, I was just kidding,
I
right?
did before I got banned off of YouTube.
But
And I'm pretty sure it was for probably saying something like that cop should be blown away with a shotgun and eaten by pigs. But that
you were
was
right.
another story. So,
You shouldn't have been banned for that one, not when you're just telling the truth.
oh boy. But I don't know if you say it 500 times, they may catch on.
But I
Yeah.
think, okay, so this, funny, and but it does lead to the other thing that I wanted to talk about with this, and unfortunately, I don't have the image or any of that, but the Project Veritas thing, which I don't know if you even follow them anymore. They've lost so much credibility because about half of the things they report always turn out to be editing or just straight up lying. But Project Veritas they they set up a Tinder date with a CNN employee, and he's like an art director. And in the Tinder date, they recorded him, and he can be heard saying some pretty outstanding things. Basically, well, if not for CNN, Trump would have won the election. We did that. We set the direction. Blah blah blah. It really, really did put the fact that they have a narrative, and that's the narrative they're going to run with. And if
And
there's
that's where Zucker, well, and he basically, that's been kind of a known thing as far as things that Zucker himself, not Zuckerberg,
right,
uh,
Jeff Zucker.
that, yeah, that he's definitely been on the anti, we're going to take him down. Many of his employees, his CEOs, have been quoted as saying, we're personally going after, we're going to change the election, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and they definitely have that slant. There are things that Veritas has done that has outed some pretty ridiculous things that people have said, but you know, without just some of the editing to make it look as damning as it is, they have released some of the bigger chunks of the footage that were unedited, and they kind of said the same thing. I mean, they're definitely editing some things out there for impact, but hey, it's kind of like they didn't fake it was like a deep fake. They got people to say things that were pretty mind blowing, but not really. because,
Right.
like I said,
No,
we
and
knew where the standpoint was to begin with.
let me just say this too. Like Project Veritas themselves, they're not like bipartisan. They're definitely
Oh
partisan.
no,
You know what I mean? So you have that, um, and not to mention, the guy they were talking to, which, how much does this add up? Did they set up this Tinder date with this girl? This girl, pretended to be super, super liberal, and he was just basically doing what all guys do on a date, and was like, yeah, look at the power I have, um,
definitely he was bragging.
because
I'm sure
also,
he didn't have Zucker's phone on speed dial.
exactly,
And this
like,
guy, I'm
look at
sure the girl was probably a 9. He looks like about a 4 or 3.
right. And the other thing too, like, and Veritas didn't hide this or anything, but he's an art director. What does that mean? That means he's the dude who sets up the graphics. I mean, he doesn't have, like, he has no power at all.
As well, I will tell you this: I don't know what kind of connection he has directly with Zucker, but as a director, an art director, he does have a lot of people under him. A director is really the top position. You have all kinds of advertising, graphic designers, print people. He has a lot of people under him.
Right,
So
but he's not like
I
an
would love to
editor.
be.
Is an editor or a writer is what I'm saying. Like he
Well,
probably has very little to do with the actual
we can look
direction.
up what he was. I'm not saying I'm not giving him. He's not the spokesperson for that, but no doubt that kind of rhetoric circulates within CNN
Of
itself.
course. No, and that's what I was gonna say too, is like if this had been Dan Rather who had broke the story, I think it would I'm just throwing out somebody. I think it would have been pretty damning. And I think it would have been pretty huge. And it's not fair to Project Veritas. It's not. They screwed their own credibility up though, and it would be if Rachel Maddow broke a story that was completely 100% true, but it was, showing the, grift that's going on at Fox News or ON, Newsmax or one of them. It wouldn't matter. No one
Yeah,
would say,
it's more
who cares,
impactful when we saw Hunter Biden recently come on and have a new interview. And by the way, he's gained some weight, so I've he's probably off some of the drugs he was on, and say, yeah, it could have been my laptop
Right.
after
Same
after the
difference,
whole
yeah.
time them saying it's a Russian scam. And he's like, yeah, somebody could have
It
stole
could
my
have been.
laptop.
No follow-up question. No, and that's my thing. Of course, it is partisan. We know that. Like my response to, wow, did you see that Project Veritas thing and CNN being a liberal media is, well, no shit. Like it's not
Yeah,
surprising to me. They're
I didn't
all
I
they're
didn't
all
run and tell
partisan.
you about it because I didn't even care.
Yeah, no, and like for me, it wasn't what they found. It's just the fact that we are so
It's re
partisan in the
it's
fact that no one
reaffirmation.
will.
Like you said, it's with partisan reaffirmation. It's what we know circulates in CNN is an ideology and an attitude, and it just was put on display by a lackey. Sure, I mean, like I said, I wasn't like, oh my god, did you say that?
No, and I wish we lived in the alternate reality where, um, where Dan Rather or Chuck Todd would have covered it, where Rachel Maddow would have talked about it, and then all these like super super liberal, hey, believe everything Chris Matthews says kind of people would say, whoa, is this real? Because I do think people like us on the outside and right wing people, they can definitely see that the partisan. Just like though the people who watch Fox News and Newsmax and ON, they don't see how partisan that is.
Yeah.
And people on the left wing are like, well, duh, how do you not see that? I really think that's the mind fuck they have themselves, in.
Well,
You
it's
know,
funny when people want to try to corner, like, granted, there are a lot of people that are so polarized on both sides that they're willing to give into a particular issue that they don't necessarily agree with just to feel like they're on that side, and whether it be associated with your religion or your ideology or something. I find myself at odds with a lot of people who are extremely religious, and they do so for no other reason than because that's the way we're supposed to be. Kind of that. And that, even that kind of attitude also extends completely into each side of this, this political ideology. People don't evaluate individual issues and grant them merit based on, or importance based on, how they really affect people in the end. And so Mike Lindell is this is all just posturing is what it
Oh,
is.
it
It's like,
is.
look what I can do, but he's not doing anything different.
And I think it takes a special person, by the way, to recognize the partisanship, or to be so principled to your own beliefs that when you watch someone you're a fan of and they disagree with you, for you to not change your thought. Um, Quick story. So, I have a friend, I have a few friends, but one particular who he's a cop. He's worked himself up through community police officer to beat cop to now he's a detective. Um, Text me Friday, I think, and he says, and it was just 2 words, and it was "fuck Tucker." And I was like, reply, I'm like, what? He's like, dude, fuck that guy. And by the way, this guy is a huge Tucker Carlson fan. Every time we hang out, he'll mention something about Tucker Carlson, something on his show. And again, he's also a cop, so keep all these things in mind. He was like, well, I was watching Tucker Carlson, and he called that 13-year-old kid that got shot a 13-year-old man. Fuck this guy. Fuck them. Those cops were wrong. The kid didn't have anything on him, and this is Tucker trying to cover up for dirty fucking pigs. And like I was just
Yeah,
blown away. I'm like, holy Christ!
yeah.
Like, and it just
That's
gave me so
definitely a
much
part of the
respect for
right
that
that
guy.
I'm not on. That's definitely a part of the right. And that's a big issue. I have a hard time talking with a lot of people on the right that are bootlickers. They wear those, blue line flag shirts, and I'm just like, dude, you've never, I have no criminal record, and yet I have a big problem with that. You're gonna, and that's good on him for realizing that kind of blanket, approval of police officers. There's a reason we're getting rid of qualified immunity. We didn't have it before. People are like, oh, well, we're not going to have any cops anymore because you can just sue cops out of the. No, they didn't have it before. And when the courts kind of invented it, it didn't change. We didn't get a whole bunch more cops at that point. We can do without it, and we can hold people accountable for murders and for things even as simple as First Amendment violations, beating up people and stealing their phones that are recording them and smashing them on the ground. It's the whole thing. It's the whole ladder. They do have training on this, and they're not using it.
Right? Yeah. No. And just to touch on this, but my respect for the guy just went shooting up because when I can see somebody who is not lost in like some partisan maze, it really does make me respect and have a lot of appreciation for that person, and it's rare. And that's why I think it kind of goes into the Project Veritas thing, the Mike Lindell thing, all of those where it's like you can see so much partisan. And again, and I'm actually saying Project Veritas and this, good on them, but we have so much partisan on the left that no one's going to pay attention. The Mike Lindell thing is so much partisan. He doesn't realize what kind of hypocrite he's being. So yeah, when I see somebody, and yeah, I think that's why we're such good friends because we don't have that either. We think for ourselves. But I don't know. I just think that that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, everybody likes. I like a little bit of chaos. I like a little bit of gonzo journalism, and you're, and also like there's risk in everything we do that's a little bit of out of our control. You know, if you deal with that risk, sometimes it can make life a little more exciting and real. You realize you're mortal, not immortal, mortal, and if you're not challenging yourself and challenging, your views against other things and not using self-control in an environment where Michael Lindell thinks he can control, everybody's impulses down to the blasphemy laws. Well, I think he needs to go reread the Constitution again.
I think he needs to reread the Bible too because there's a lot of bad things in there too.
Yeah, when he was smoking crack and probably in his mind worshiping the devil down below, then he found Jesus again, and then Jesus told him to make pillows after 30 or 40 failed businesses. I'm glad he found his way out of that hole. It's not because Jesus saved him, it's because he saved himself. and I'm sure he had some help on the way up. So he should be glorifying the people who helped him dig out of that hole, and not the magic Santa Claus in the sky.
I think that's incredibly well said.